Hello and welcome. Namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to address the joint session of the Trinidad and Tobago Parliament in a special gesture that underscores mutual respect and shared democratic values. Prime Minister Modi will also addresses a large gathering of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago, announces OCI cards for 6th generation of people of Indian origin in T&T. US President Donald Trump is set to sign One Big Beautiful legislation on the 4th of July as part of the 250th celebration of America's Independence Day. England closed in on 250 runs by lunch on day 3 of the Birmingham Test, with Smith scoring a ton and Brooke also in the 90s in response to India's mammoth 587-run first innings score. And the greatest British band of the 90s is set to return to the stage after almost 16 years in Cardiff. Fans of all ages worldwide wait with bated breath for the start of the Oasis reunion tour. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Trinidad and Tobago on the second leg of his five-nation tour. He will be conferred on Friday with the Order of Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean nation's highest honor. While addressing a large gathering of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Modi announced OCI cards for 6th generation of people of Indian origin in T&T.
A rousing welcome for Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he landed in Trinidad and Tobago. In a special gesture, Prime Minister was received by Kamla Prasad Bisesar, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, along with the members of her cabinet and several other dignitaries. Prime Minister arrived in Port of Spain on the second leg of his five-nation tour in Africa and Latin America. Prime Minister was accorded a ceremonial guard of honor and welcomed with special cultural performances. Later, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with his counterpart Kamla Prasad Bisesar, attended the Namaste Modi event, where the two leaders addressed thousands of Indian diaspora members. At the event, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago also announced nation's highest honor to Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Through your benevolence with the vaccines initiative 4 years ago, when COVID-19 pandemic brought the world to its knees, while some other countries were hoarding medical supplies, you, sir, you ensured that vaccines and supplies reach even the smallest nations, including Trinidad and Tobago. Through your benevolence, you brought hope and calm where there was fear. I say again, this was more than diplomacy. This was an act of kinship. This was an act of shared humanity. This was an act of love. And this is one of the many reasons we are deeply proud to bestow upon you, Excellency, the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Addressing the Indian community, Prime Minister Narendra Modi recounted the deep historic and cultural bonds between the two countries. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also announced extension of the OCI cards to 6th generation members of the Indian diaspora. He spoke about decision of mapping of Girmitia community to bring it closer for a bright future.
I am happy to announce that OCI cards will now be given to the sixth generation of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago. You are not just connected by blood or surname. You are connected by belonging. India looks out you. India welcomes you. And India embraces you.
Later, Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesar hosted a dinner in honor of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi landed in Trinidad and Tobago, the world once again saw Modi brand of diplomacy. From Trinidad and Tobago conferring PM Modi with their highest award to PM Modi reciprocating and extending the OCI card for sixth generation of Indian diaspora in the country. The visit by PM Modi to the Caribbean nation is not only deepening the friendship between the two countries, but also is proving to be a milestone in India's outreach to the global south. With camera person Mohit Oike and Saurabh Shukla, Akshay Dongre, TD India.
And while addressing the Indian community members in Port of Spain on Thursday, Prime Minister Modi said that India is actively working on creating a comprehensive database of the Girmitia community, documenting the villages and cities in India from which their ancestors migrated. India is also working to organize World Girmitia conferences regularly. In the next report, Akshay Dongre traces the journey of the Indian diaspora to Trinidad and Tobago.
On May 30th, 1845, the Fatal Razak arrived at Trinidad carrying 225 Indian indentured laborers or Girmitias, the dawn of a transformative chapter in the twin island nation's history. The term Girmit is the Avadi word for the agreement. Girmitia stood for the laborers who came from India on an agreement with the British. Over the next 7 decades, nearly 1,44,000 Indians arrived between 1845 and 1917. They hailed mostly from present-day Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. 1845, Fatal Razak arrives in Trinidad and Tobago with 225 Indians. 1845 to 1917, 1,43,939 indentured laborers landed. 1902, over half of sugarcane farming managed by Indians. 1962, diplomatic ties formalized post-independence. 2025, Indo-Trinidadians and Tobagonians form approximately 42% of the total population. Over past 180 years, the Indian diaspora preserved their culture, built thriving communities, and now stand proudly at the nation's helm, with Indian origin Kamla Prasad Bisesar as its Prime Minister. Clearly, though the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago had a hard landing on the nation's shores, it has weathered many a storm to emerge at the top of its society.
Primarily, our forefathers came from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, and they brought with them a lot of folk traditions, including their Ramcharitamanas, which is still hugely popular here in Trinidad and Tobago. Our forefathers were simple but profound persons. They were simple in the skills that they came with, but they were very profound in the value system that they came with.
In fact, in his address to the members of Indian diaspora in Port of Spain, Prime Minister also underscored that India would be supporting several initiatives to nurture the Girmitia legacy.
We are actively working on creating a comprehensive database of the Girmitia community, documenting the villages and cities in India from which their ancestors migrated. Identifying the places where they have settled, studying and preserving the legacy of the Girmitia ancestors and working to organize World Girmitia conferences regularly. This will support the deep and historic ties with our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago as well.
This year, the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago is celebrating 180 years of the first indentured laborers landing in the nation. From the first ship across the oceans to the halls of governance, this diaspora has redefined identity and nationhood. Their journey embodies survival, adaptation, and leadership. Akshay Dongre's report from Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago.
As you could make out in those images, members of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago were delighted as Prime Minister Modi visited the Caribbean nation. The Srivastava correspondent brings us more.
It was so exciting day. We are very closely. We watched. We met Modi ji. It was so memorable day today. Thank you very much.
Modi,
You are very excited. Why?
yes, I feel all my pores raised when he passed next to me. Beautiful. I feel energetic.
Thank you, Modi ji, for gracing us with your splendid presence here in Trinidad today. Thank you again and again.
I was very excited to see him for where he came and where he become now Prime Minister of India. That's really tremendous. And the shoes he wore when he was going to school, he had no shoes. And he used to take the chalk and color his shoes to get it white. That impressed me such a great deal. That is humility. Beautiful.
I was so excited that Prime Minister Modi was coming, and I was so happy that I could meet him at such a close range. I haven't seen him so close. I'm so happy to be here.
Very, very much great. It's such a great guy, great man come to this country. So we welcome him.
And Miss World Trinidad and Tobago 2025, Annalise Nanton, who represented her country in the beauty pageant held in India recently, lauded Prime Minister Modi's efforts to understand the connection and the deep cultural roots between both the nations.
That he speaks, it really just touches your heart and you can't help but listen to him. And he really, really understands the connection, the deep cultural roots that we share with India, Trinidad and Tobago because of our history. And I know that all about the Trinbagonian who are here today, they really connected with him.
And earlier, Prime Minister Modi presented the replica of Ayodhya's Ram temple, water from the holy Saryu river along with the water from the Triveni Sangam to his Trinidad and Tobago counterpart, Kamala Prasad Bharati. And the Trinidad and Tobago visit also saw Prime Minister Modi immersing himself in the rhythm of Bihar's Bhpuri music, which was performed in Port of Spain. The performance was a powerful reminder of the deep-rooted historical and emotional ties forged with India and the Caribbean. And the PM also met Trinidadian singer Rana Mohib, who had sung Vaishnav Janato during the celebrations of the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi held a few years ago. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Russia pounds Kyiv with the largest drone attack hours after a Trump-Putin call. NATO chief Mark Rutte calls for balance between US stockpiles and Ukraine aid.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, US President Donald Trump has said he is planning to start sending letters informing trading partners of their tariff rates as soon as Friday, as negotiations to avoid high US levies enter the final stretch. His comments have come days before steeper duties are set to take effect on dozens of economies, customized to each of them, ranging from Taiwan to the European Union. These tariffs were part of a broader announcement in April, where Trump imposed a 10% duty on goods from almost all trading partners, with a plan to step up these rates for a select group within days. But he swiftly paused the hikes until the 9th of July, allowing for trade talks to take place. US officials have signaled that there could be a flurry of trade pacts announced in the coming days.
You know, my inclination is to send a letter out and saying what tariff they're going to be paying. It's just much easier. We have, you know, far more than 170 countries. And how many deals can you make? And you can make good deals, but they're very much more complicated. I'd rather, and I've been like this from the beginning, I'd rather send out a letter saying this is what you're going to pay to.
And Russia has said that it is paying close attention to all statements by Trump after he said he was very disappointed with his latest phone call with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin on the war in Ukraine. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Russian President Putin informed Trump that Russia expects to agree a date for the third round of peace talks with Ukraine.
Undoubtedly, we pay close attention to all of the President Trump's statements. During the call, President Putin repeated that we are interested in achieving our goals in special military operation and we had rather do it by political and diplomatic means. But for as long as it doesn't seem possible, we will continue our special military operation.
And now for the latest as far as the conflict itself is concerned. An overnight drone strike on Ukraine's Kyiv by Russia injured 23 and damaged railway infrastructure and buildings and cars caught fire as well. Ukraine's Air Force said Russia launched multiple strikes early on Friday using as many as 539 drones and 11 missiles. Kyiv's mayor Vitaly Klitschko said damage was recorded in 6 of Kyiv's 10 districts. Meanwhile, the Russian Defense Ministry said on Friday that its strikes targeted Ukrainian drone factories, a military airfield and an oil refinery. Meanwhile, Ukraine also launched a drone strike near Moscow, injuring one person and causing power outages in parts of the city's center. According to Russia's defense ministry, air defense units intercepted and destroyed 48 Ukrainian drones across 5 Russian regions. French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will co-chair a high-level summit on the 10th of this month with European leaders to discuss strengthening Ukraine's defenses. The summit, to be held through a video link, will include Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni as well. Leaders are expected to focus on the deployment of a reassurance force to Ukraine after a ceasefire. The meeting comes at a tense moment in the war as US-led peace efforts stall and Washington halts key weapons deliveries. The French presidency said discussions will aim to increase pressure on Russia to accept an unconditional ceasefire, something Moscow continues to reject. Now, NATO's new Supreme Allied Commander, Europe, General Alexis Grinkovich, officially took command on Friday at a ceremony in Mons, Belgium. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte called his leadership vital as Europe takes on more responsibility for collective defense. He also called for balance between U.S. stockpiles and Ukraine aid.
Today is to lead in a volatile and dangerous world. War is back in Europe and global competition is fierce. General Cavoli, dear Chris, on behalf of the Alliance, thank you for your leadership, drive and determination. As one leader steps back, another leader steps forward. As Europe takes on greater responsibility for collective defense, while maintaining our strong deterrence and defense, your leadership and guidance will be vital.
Grinkovich acknowledged that while security threats are becoming more complex, NATO's unity and shared purpose remain strong.
These are consequential times, ladies and gentlemen. The challenges facing the alliance and our partners are growing more complex. The threats we face are only becoming more intertwined, but they are no match for the unity, the resolve, and the shared purpose that I see gathered on this field today. Together, we stand ready in defense of our nations, and we're only going to get better.
Now, a massive explosion at a petrol station in Rome's Prenestino area on Friday left 27 people injured, including 9 law enforcement officers and 1 person in serious condition. Mobile footage captured a huge fireball and thick black smoke engulfing the area during a refueling gas leak incident. People nearby were safely evacuated and emergency services rushed to the site. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has expressed solidarity with the injured and praised first responders on social media platform X.
We are monitoring the situation of the injured. The numbers are not yet final. As far as we know, there are about 9 law enforcement officers, firemen and police who are injured. And then there are about 20 civilians. These are the current numbers, of course, who were injured. It would seem 2 burned, perhaps 1 in a more serious condition. The others are all yellow coats as far as we know. So let's say light injuries.
And now a moment that fans feared might never come, but British rock legends Oasis on Friday set to launch their much-awaited Oasis Live 25 tour almost 15 years after the band split in 2009 due to a feud between brothers Liam and Noel Gallagher. Following Cardiff, Oasis will also play 5 shows each in Manchester, paying homage to their hometown roots and then in London. The tour will then roll on to other cities across the UK and Ireland before taking their Britpop anthems to stages in North America, Asia, South America and Australia. That's all we have for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen and download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.